Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to crochet a cute little sachet like this one with a Shakar pattern. For this sachet here I used the Woolly Hugs Nobly, which consists of 74% cotton and 26% silk. It's a ribbon yarn, which is perfect for such a sachet because it doesn't lose shape. For this design I chose 3 colors: grey, yellow and rose. Also, I'm using a needle size 4, that's a UK 8 or a US 6. This one is for my Woolly Hugs needle case. In addition to that, you also need a stitch marker, scissors and a needle to sew in the loose ends. When you look closely at the Nobly, you can see that the recommended needle size is a 4 or 5, and I'm using the smaller one. The reason why you should use the smaller size is that your sachet will then be tight and durable. We start in the middle of the round. This one will be only one color and we crochet in a spiral so there is no end to the round. Instead, you directly continue to crochet the second round after the first. I'll show you how to do that. To begin, we build a loop. This here is the end of our yarn, and I placed that underneath the part coming out of the ball. Hold the part where the two intersect, then insert into that loop and pull the yarn through. After that, I chain 1 for the height. And now for the first round, I'll put the number up here for you to see. We crochet 6 single crochets into our loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now, I do not close the round with the slip stitch like you would expect, but instead pull this end here to close the loop. And then into the very first single crochet, I crochet 2 single crochets. And now I close the loop all the way, real tight, and you can see that the round is now fully closed. Then I again work 2 single crochets into the second single crochet. Then 2 more single crochets into the third. Let me change the number. This is already our second round. 2 into the fourth, 2 into the fifth, and 2 into the sixth as well. Now our second round is finished. Well, the second round of the spiral. So here is where I put my stitch marker. And then we can start our third round. Here I now only crochet 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 into the second. So into every second stitch I work 2 single crochets. 1 single crochet into the third and 2 into the fourth. One single crochet into the fifth and 2 into the sixth. 1 single crochet into the seventh and 2 into the eighth. 1 single crochet into the ninth and 2 into the 10th. 1 single crochet into the 11th and 2 into the 12th. Now I move my stitch marker up. And then we start round number 4. In round number 4, I crochet 2 single crochets into every third stitch. 1, 2, and into the third 2 single crochets. Then 1 single crochet each into the 4th and the 5th, and 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 7th and 8th, and 2 single crochets into the 9th stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 10th and the 11th, and 2 single crochets into the 12th. 1 single crochet each into the 13th and the 14th, and 2 single crochets into the 15th. 1 single crochet each into the 16th and 17th, and 2 single crochets into the 18th stitch. Move the marker up and we can start with round 5. This is going to be the same as row 4, with 2 single crochets into every third stitch. Right now I have 24 stitches all around. That equals an increase of 6 stitches per round until now. And in row 5 I'm now going to increase 8 stitches. 1, 2, and into the third 2 single crochets, then 1 single crochet each into the 4th and the 5th, and 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 7th and 8th, and 2 single crochets into the 9th stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 10th and the 11th, and 2 single crochets into the 12th. 1 single crochet each into the 13th and 14th, and 2 single crochets into the 15th. 1 single crochet each into the 16th and 17th, and 2 single crochets into the 18th stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 19th and the 20th, and 2 single crochets into the 21st stitch. 1 single crochet each into the 22nd and the 23rd, and 2 single crochets into the 24th. And because I now increased 8, I now have 32 stitches. In the following round I'm going to crochet 2 single crochets into every 4th stitch, and at the same time we will start a new color. Next is round 6. I'm going to crochet 4 stitches in each color. So into the 1st, 2nd and 3rd stitch we crochet 1 single crochet each, and then 2 into the 4th. After the first of these 2, I start the 2nd, but then switch to the new color. So within the stitch that we increase, we switch colors. Put the loose gray end behind your stitches and then around it we work 1 single crochet into the 5th, 6th and 7th stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the 8th. The first in rows, and the second I start with rows and then change back to gray. And around the rose yarn we again work 1 single stitch each into the 9th, the 10th and the 11th stitch, and then 2 into the 12th. 1 in gray and 1 half gray half rose. Work 1 single crochet into the 13th, 14th and 15th stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the 16th. The first in rows and the second I start with rows and then change back to gray. And again work 1 single crochet each into the 17th, the 18th and the 19th stitch, Important is that you always crochet around the unused yarn of the color that you're not using. And then 2 into the 20th, 1 in gray and 1 half gray half rose. Next we again have 3 separate single crochets and then we work 2 single crochets into the 4th. The first in rows and the second I start with rows and then change back to gray. Then another 3 in gray, then 2 single crochets into the 4th, first gray, then half gray, half rose. Three single crochets, 1, 2, 3 and 2 into the 4th and last stitch, and we end the last stitch with gray. That was round 6. And in round 7 we will work the increases just the same, just in every 5th stitch. So we start with 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets and then 2 into the 5th. 1 gray, and with the second we switch to rows. Continue with 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets and then 2 into the 5th. 1 rose, and with the second we switch to gray. Always get the yarn on the back side. This here is the end. And you won't have any long floats and everything will look neat. See, I already forgot to crochet around the rose yarn. One, 2, 3, 4 single crochets and then 2 into the 5th. 1 gray, and with the second we switch to rose. You see how we have a nice border here. And just like this, you finish the 7th round, and we continue with round 8 in a minute. Okay, now I'm at the last stitch of the 7th round. So the second of the 2 single crochets from the 5th stitch. But this time I don't switch to gray, but instead switch to my 3rd color. In this case, yellow. So now we start round 8 and we will crochet round 8 with yellow and gray. The yellow lies above the gray stitches of the previous 7th round, and the gray stitches will lie above the rose stitches of the previous round. So in round 8 we continue by crocheting yellow onto gray and gray onto rose. So with yellow I go around the loose gray yarn in the back and work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. With the second of those 2 stitches we switch to gray. Now I go around the loose yellow yarn in the back and work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. With the second of those 2 stitches we switch to yellow. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. With the second of those 2 stitches we switch to gray. And now you continue like that all around round 8, and row number 9 you do just the same, with the same increase with the last stitch, so that you then work 6 single crochets and 2 single crochets into the 7th stitch, and get 8 stitches per color. Let's have a quick look at the end of round 8. I already did 5 single crochets, and now I insert into the 6th for my 2 single crochets. And here I now crochet around rows. I left the rose yarn here because I switched to yellow, but now I catch rows with 1 stitch so that we don't have any long floats here on the back side. 1 stitch is all it takes here at the transition in between the 2 rounds. And now the second of my 2 single crochets, I start in gray and then switch to yellow. With that, we start round 9. I again forgot to crochet around the gray yarn on the back. It's easier when you always lay the yarn behind the stitches you are about to work on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 into the 7th. The second we start in yellow and end in gray. Then continue with gray, and that is how you crochet round 9. This is again the last stitch of round 9. Again the stitch that I work around the rose yarn in the back to take the rose yarn up with me. I also darned in the 2 loose ends from my yellow and rose yarn, so that you can have a look at how neat the backside looks. No floats here. Now we're gonna crochet this edge here with relief stitches or raised stitches. We will work that whole round in gray. And with the relief stitches I insert from behind, from the back to the front, and then again from the front to the back around the stitch beneath, and then work a single crochet. And that I continue all the way around in gray. I currently have 64 stitches to work, 8 stitches per color field, and we have 4 color fields in yellow and 4 in gray. So 4 times 8, and that times 2, equals my 64 stitches. And like that, you go all the way around to form the edge of your sachet. Alright, I'm here now at the last stitch, my 64th stitch. The next round is going to be rose, therefore I finish this last relief stitch with rose. Then I insert into that first relief stitch and crochet the whole round in rose. Because I use rose for the entire round, there's no need to go around any floats or loose ends of the back side. We'll just leave that there and then catch it at the end with the last rose stitch of this round. Now continue all the way around. This is now my last stitch. So I insert, go around the loose yarn on the back side, all colors, pull the rose yarn through, and finish the stitch. For the next round I will crochet 2 stitches with rose and 2 stitches with gray in turns. This means I go around the gray yarn and leave the yellow yarn where it is, because we don't need that for the whole round. So 1, 2, and with the second we change to gray. And now go around the rose yarn in the back. 1, 2, and again change colors with the second. And like that you continue according to your stitch pattern or whatever way you wish to divide your colors. Keep going until it is as high as you want it to be. I will make a sachet, like I told you before, that you can then just close with a pull string at the top. So that's it. Have fun designing your own little sachet or bag, and I hope to see you again for another of my tutorials. Love, Veronika.